Justice and Law Solicitors, bringing you the legal matters or immigration and nationality update from the King's country. This is Justice and Law Solicitors. One share a day, keep ignorance away. Deep to the power of two. As soon as you join us, share the program for us. What do we have for you today? MAC, Migration Advisory Committee. What are they up to this time? We are bringing it to you. Skilled Workers Home Center, we're bringing it to you live. And evicting tenants in England. Know your right as tenants. Know your right as landlord. When we say someone has made himself intentionally homeless, what does that mean? We are going to be looking at Section 21 notices and the key word, making yourself intentionally homeless. So it's very, very important that we understand this concept. And what is it that we need to do if we are faced with eviction? How would we be able to make the council responsible for our housing needs? You need to understand these principles before you make a mistake. We have come across so many people without seeking legal advice, making decisions. They may have a very good case for the local authority to house them, but for the decision that they have made, they have rendered themselves intentionally homeless. Over the last couple of weeks, I have had telephone calls upon telephone calls, people asking questions about Section 21 notice and basically general notice to quit. And what are their legal rights? What are the legal implications if they decide to move? Today, we are going to break it down. And today, 1:45 sharp, we will bring the program to an end due to an emergency meeting that I need to attend this afternoon. So when we activate the telephone lines, if you want to call in, be quick, be fast. Because after the show, unfortunately, I will not be able to answer any more phone calls, because we have to also move on and do other stuff. As you are aware, on the 11th of March, there is going to be a policy change. On the 11th of April, there is going to be a policy change. And as a result, people are rushing us. They want to put in their applications before the new changes come into effect. For that reason, we are being rushed last minute. And we got a lot of work to do before then. And as a result, unfortunately, you will not be able to get me on the phone as much as you may wish. Because in the past, we made ourselves available. And as a result, of course, we're able to speak to people a lot of the time. But now we are inundated with work. And we also got time deadlines that we have to meet. And therefore, we have to be serious about those because the implications is thousands of pounds differences. The implications means either someone can get family in or not if the application is not done on time. So we beg, if you are serious, book appointment and come and see us. Because the whole idea is I want to try before I buy. Unfortunately, not this time, because this time we are just too busy. And we will not have the time for you. It's not, you know, out of wickedness. It's not out of arrogance. But it has become a necessity. We need to concentrate on those cases that the deadline is upon us so that we can cross the line and get it done for those people who have come to see us. And I hope and believe you will understand me. Right. Now, we are going to share the program as well. You got a lot of people. Sometimes they struggle to get the program. So bear with me. I am also going to basically share the program to all those on my list. And whilst we play this tune, let's all do the best that we can and share the program as much as we can. Let's get everywhere. Let's go everywhere. When it catches up with you, it catches up with you. Thank you for joining us. Time and tide waits for no man. If you need to do something, there is no time like now, and there's no time like today. If you've got to do something, you've got to do it now. Now, there is a lot of changes that are coming up in terms of immigration and nationality law. And justice and law solicitors, we believe that it's incumbent upon us to bring you the news. So if you have something that you are doing, something that you need to do, then you step up and you do it now. Like they say, time and tide waits for no man, and time is no man's best friend. When time catches, it catches, and there is nothing that you and I can do about it. So I say, you know, if you've got to do something, then do it, and do it now. Now, what is happening? What is cooking? Now we have we have some changes that are coming up in terms of immigration and nationality law. And what are the changes, and what are the challenges that a lot of people may face? So let's start the program. As we know, announcement has been made some time ago that from the 11th of March, any one who puts in an application under certain skilled work visa route will not be able to bring in their dependents to the United Kingdom. In particular, healthcare workers and senior care workers. We need to put that in mind. And so therefore, if it is the case that you intend to apply under healthcare or senior care worker route, these days some people will say route, we will say route, then you need to realize that your application must be put in now, and any event before the 10th of March. I will say before the 10th of March in the sense that it will give you at least 1 day to play with. So if you are applying before the 10th of March and say something is wrong, you can correct it before the deadline of the 11th. Because as soon as the clock chimes 12.01, even 1 second after 12 a.m. on the 10th of March into 11th of March, that will be it. You will not be able to add your dependents to your application. You will not be able to bring your dependents to the United Kingdom if you are a first-time applicant. So people have to be aware of this. If you are living here in the United Kingdom, or you have applied already, awaiting a decision before 11th of March, that means you will fall under the old rules. And therefore, in effect, there is nothing for you to be worried about in terms of bringing your dependents to the United Kingdom. However, if you are a first-time applicant and you are applying after 11th of March, the policy is that from 11th of March, you cannot bring in your dependents. Dependent means your husband, your wife, and your children. But those who are already in, you do not need to be worried about, because the policy still allows you to bring in your dependents even after 11th of March. So this is something that you ought to be aware of. Some people must rush it and put in their application. Others may not have to rush and put in their application. So you need to know where you fall in and which rules will apply to you or not. So that is what I can say in that respect. Some of the questions that people have come to me to ask in terms of skilled worker visa route or route is what I'm going to also discuss with you today, because a lot of people are very, very confused about some of these things. Yesterday, Nipenia called me, start asking some questions about this skilled worker visa route and some of the implications. And I'm going to repeat this again. Some people may be surprised because there's a lot of information out there, you see. And sometimes if you're not careful, you're going to be listening to the wrong people. And you're going to find yourself in a big, big, mighty mess. So be very, very careful. You know what them say? Too much of everything is bad. Oh yeah, man. Too much of everything is bad. Too much information too is bad. Because at the moment, all that you have to go to TikTok lawyers. And you have Facebook lawyers with no qualification. They can come on here and just spin whatever they want to spin. They are not responsible. And therefore, when it goes wrong, you cannot go anywhere to blame them. Because at the end of the day, they will simply say that they were just passing on information that they've seen on the internet. So be very careful. I'm not saying that all the information out there is wrong, but be very careful. Because when people come out there and they speak in general terms. It is not bespoke. It's not specific. It's not tailored to your particular circumstances. So if you listen to them and you start applying what someone is saying to your circumstances, you could get it wrong because they may be different from your particular circumstances. So be careful. I can use one example about students who are in the United Kingdom. Last year, February this time, they were able to switch from a student to maybe a skilled worker visa. Later on in the year, the policy was changed. And it made it impossible for students who are still students not to be able to switch. So what I call it, if you go and listen to someone's old tape on TikTok, on social media, and you hear the person saying it that, oh yes, if you're a student, you can switch. The person did the video last year, 2023, February. And you take it as a pinch of salt. Oh, yes, I heard it on TikTok. Look at the time frame. Last year, February. We are looking at this year, 2024, February. 1 year solid. The law has changed in between because last year, later part of the year, the laws was changed. So you will go and listen to a right information as at February 2023. But wrong information as at February 2024. It's for this reason that Justice and Law Solicitors, we come here every Saturday to try and update you about the law, to let you know what is going down, what is happening today, the applicable law, to update you so that you don't become a victim of circumstances. It's for this reason that we have dedicated ourselves and our lives to provide you undiluted legal advice and legal information. So follow us and you will not become part of the statistics. So today we are going to be looking at some of the questions during the week that people have fired at us. And I believe that a lot of people, perhaps same things that go through their minds. So we are going to look at this and see the best way that we can educate people, for them not to go and make the same mistakes. You hear me now? Yeah, so today, some of the frequently asked questions that people have approached us about. And I say to myself, maybe if Onipenuye is bothering him, then the question is how many people out there that the same issue is also bothering them. And when I was advising him yesterday, something that he said, which I agreed, that he has also heard that if the main applicant switch, the dependents does not have to switch. I sat there quietly and I said, yeah, I have read that before. But then again, things change. Home Office, if you go to their website now and their guidance notes, what was said previously has also changed. So this is the reason why I tell people that be very careful, because immigration is one of the fastest changing areas of law in the United Kingdom. Almost every single day, we hear something different. Almost single day, there is an update. There are changes. And even we as practitioners, we are playing a catch-up. We are playing a catch-up because every single day, things are changing. And therefore, it's also important that we all update ourselves every single day. Because if you don't, you're probably going to perhaps listen and apply the wrong information. So I say it's very important that we take a step back, try and update ourselves every single day and every single time before we make any application. Don't just say this person has said A or B and therefore that is it. Things are changed every day. And if you don't update yourself, unfortunately, you're going to do an application and after prolonged waiting, you're going to get a refusal. So very important that when I say that we listen and update ourselves all the time. Unfortunately, like I said, immigration area, all the day, every time, we need to update ourselves. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is this. If you are a dependent, either a spouse or perhaps a child of a skilled worker, you have come into the country with the main applicant for one reason or the other. Main applicant decide to change employer, which they are entitled to as long as they are in the same occupational code. So if, for example, Mr. A and his wife and 2 children have come to the United Kingdom under the skilled visa route or route. Mr. A is not happy with his employer. Mr. A decided to change employer. Mr. A has managed to switch from company B to company C successfully. Mr. B has been issued with a new visa to work for company C. No problem. Now, the question that a lot of people ask, since Mr. B or Mr. A has managed to switch from company B to company C, do the dependents also have to switch their visas? This has become a hot topic that a lot of people are getting confused about. And today, as I explained to Onipenia yesterday, this is the Home Office guidance, and I'm going to read it detailed, toe to toe. I don't want anyone to accuse me of massaging the reality. So for that reason, I am just going to read from the horse's mouth what the Home Office say about such a situation. Home Office says you will need to apply to update your skilled worker or Tier 2 general work visa if you want to change your job and your new job is with a different employer. 2, your job changes to a different occupational code and you are not in a graduate training program. C, you leave a job that's on the shortage occupational list for a job that is not on the list. So basically, if you are the main applicant and you change your job, Home Office says you must submit a new application to update your skilled worker or Tier 2 visa. 2, if you change job to a different occupational code, so you are a healthcare assistant, you have now become a nurse, and you want to change from healthcare HCA to a nurse, in such situation you have to upgrade. You need to put in a fresh application. Or thirdly, you leave a job that's on the shortage occupational list to a job that is not on the list. So under these 3 circumstances, you, the main applicant, must put in a fresh application to update your visa. That is very clear. What about their dependents? What about the Arawaki Indians? So now let's listen. It says that you do not need to apply again if you stay in the same job, but your job is taken off the shortage occupational list. So if you are working for the same company and you are doing the same job, and even your job is taken from the occupational list, taken off from the shortage occupational list, you do not need to do anything. But the question is, what about their partners and their children? Home Office says that your partner or your children will need to apply separately to update their visas. Onipenia, that is your answer. If you upgrade your visa as the main applicant, then your dependent, children, and also dependent spouse must also apply to what? To ensure that they also update their visas. It's very, very simple. So if you have read it somewhere and it says that they don't need to, Lawyer Darko, I'm telling you today, in order to avoid any problem, then by all means, you must listen. It's very, very, very important. Like my late father will say, Semekana se wasisi wasuma. Ubeti. So it's very, very important. And so we listen and listen carefully. Because if you listen carefully, by all means, you will hear. So if you're a dependent spouse, dependent child, take the step. Don't let anyone deceive you to say that you don't need to do it. Home Office policy says that you must do it. You should do it in order to avoid potential problems in the future. Now, also let's listen to this. Let's look at this. Paragraph 9.72 of the immigration rules set out something called general grounds of refusal, including false representation and false documentation. I say, do the best that you can. Ensure that, obviously, ensure that you submit genuine documentation. If someone submits any document on your behalf, it is your responsibility, you the applicant. So do not go and allow someone who is not regulated to be doing stuff on your behalf. A lot of people come to us, and sometimes when you ask them basic questions, they tell you that they don't know the answer, which we find it very, very frustrated at the best of times. Someone wants to help you. Someone wants you to help them. But they cannot provide you with the information that you need to be able to help them. And sometimes I find it frustrating when they come to you and you ask for this basic information and they cannot furnish you with the information. And they will still tell you, there are some people that we cannot help because they are not helping themselves. And if you cannot help yourself, how can someone help you? It's very, very, very important. The basic information about you, how you came to the country, your mother's name, your father's name, their address, their date of birth, you yourself, your address, your date of birth, which airport that you landed. If you cannot help the lawyer with this basic information, how do you expect the lawyer to help you? You ask people, which airport did you land at? And they are watching your face. It's very, very important that we all educate ourselves, and basic information about ourselves we must know. Sometimes the problem that a lot of people have is where they cannot be bothered about their own stuff. Because if you are doing anything, please show a keen interest in what you are doing. Because at some point, you will be asked questions about them. And you are expected to be able to give answers to those sort of issues that may come up. So I say to you today, everything that you are doing, please make sure that you also do what? You pay a bit of attention to what you are doing. Even if someone is doing it on your behalf, you come to Lawyer Darko, for example, and you are doing stuff on your behalf, make sure that you are involved. Don't just sit there and say, "Oh, I am lawyers." You see, that is one of the things that people say that really, really frustrates me. The lawyer is not a prophet. Neither is he a seer. Neither is he able to see what is going to happen in the future. We can only make assessment based on what we are given. And we can only make predictions what is going to happen. So it's very, very, very important that you work with the lawyer. Make sure that you work together so that you can achieve the objective together. It's very, very important. So it's for this reason that justice and law solicitors, people that come to us, our clients, we make sure that we get them involved in decision makings. We make sure that, they are involved in the application process. We make sure that they contribute, because at the end of the day, if I know the law better than you, I cannot know your life more than you. Whether you are married or not, how would I know? Whether you have children or not, how would I know? Where you reside, how would I know? Your mother's name, your father's name, if you don't tell me, how would I know? I would never, never know until it comes from you. And therefore, such basic information, you got to work with the lawyer to find a final solution. Is very, very important. So all that I say is this: work with your lawyer to find a solution. Lawyers are not perfect human beings. Lawyers can make mistakes. But yes, at the same time, we also have to do what? We have to work as a team. So justice and law solicitors, even when you give us information, we give the information back for a confirmation, because sometimes mistakes do happen. Sometimes someone will tell you an address. You write the address down, for example, one case that I've done recently. And the address, when I put the postcode in, the Royal Mail sort of automatic sort of address that pop up, say flat 1. That is what it said. So I choose the flat 1. And then, at some point, the machine asks you, where are they coming to stay? That point, it doesn't give you the automatic choice where you have to select an address. This time it's asking you to populate the address. So then, when I look at the bank statement, it says flat A. So the same address, on one side, we are describing the property as flat 1. On the other side, we are describing the property as flat A. For me, it makes no difference. But for consistency, then you have to change it so that there is consistent, so that there is no misinterpretation. Because sometimes in this country, they'll call it flat 1, sometimes they say flat A, sometimes they can even say that ground floor flat, or first floor flat, or upper floor flat. If it's flat A and B, they are all the same. It's semantics and it's just a description. But in order to bring consistency, in order not to get anyone confused, then do flat A throughout or do flat 1 throughout, which for me, it makes sense as well. So I did a case where a client brought that to my attention, and straight away I had to jump in and change it. Though it's not a major change, it's not anything a big deal, but sometimes you have to do these things to avoid any misinterpretation of a document, if you know what I mean. So I had to do that for the client, to put the client's mind to bed, and to give the client assurance that with justice and law solicitors, we will always do the best that we can to find a solution to the problem that people have. Because we are the solution to your legal problems. And we work hard to make sure that people achieve their goals and their objectives. That is justice and law solicitors. So all that I say is this: if you are going to do any application, be very, very careful. Those side lawyers, TikTok lawyers and Facebook lawyers who are not regulated, if you go to them, you are taking a risk. You need to understand that. If you take a risk and it pays off, sometimes we think it's a clever move. However, 4 years time, 3 years time, The person is no longer in the scene. You bring justice and law solicitors, and we ask certain questions. When you are coming from Ghana, were you married? The person is standing there watching your face. Your mother's name, your father's name. The person that day there watch your face. And the person tell you, lawyer, my friend, when your mother was born in you, I wasn't there. When your father was born in you, I wasn't there. So how would I supposed to know their names? If you are the child and you don't know your father's name, your mother's name, how would you expect me to know their names? Someone may be watching me and the person say, how can this be possible? Lawyer, what are you talking about? Believe in me, a lot are gone down. We hear things, we see things. And everything that I say, I speak the truth. You'll be surprised. Some of the conundrums that come before us, some of the issues that come before us sometimes is beyond the ordinary imagination. But yet, you have to do the best that you can to find a solution to such a problems. Right now, I've got right in front of me where the person did not even know that, she was married. The person didn't know. So when the person comes and says, look, a connection man filled out your application, you don't know what the person wrote on the application for. Now, if it's your mother's name, you don't know whether the person wrote your mother's name or not. So in order to avoid any confusion, me I advise the person, look, let's go back to the Home Office and dig. Let's find out what go on so that, you don't contradict yourself. And sometimes too, in Africa, and especially in Ghana, fortunately or unfortunately, no one has got one name. When I say no one has got one name, I mean especially when it comes to the Akan tribe. The very day that someone is born, that person has got a name from that day, in which the Akans will call the soul name, Ekredin. So if you are born on Wednesday, automatically, you are called Kweku or Equia. Kweku is a male, Equia is a female. If you are born on Sunday, a male is called Kwesi or Akwesi, and a female is called Akwesia. So these are some of the things that sometimes throw confusion into what we do. So sometimes people may decide to use their mother's, soul name, a credit, rather than maybe using their official names. And therefore it becomes a problem. Because people forget whether they use their mother's, home name, circumstantial name, or their official name, the baptism name. And therefore sometimes they create confusion in people's mind. This name was written about 15 years ago. 15 years later, they cannot remember. And therefore sometimes it causes problems. I remember a case that I did back in about 2012, 2013, where we submitted an application. Home Office came back, they refused the application. The sole basis of the refusal was that the applicant's father's name is not the same name that he put on his visa application to come to the United Kingdom. And for that reason, on this application, he's using false information or false representation to obtain a visa in the United Kingdom. This is a misunderstanding from the Home Office because they did not understand the circumstantial names. That happens in our culture, in our part of the world, and in particular Ghana. And today I'm going to give examples for people to know sometimes why sometimes this confusion can come up. So listen and listen very carefully. And those who listen will hear. If you have just tuned in, share the program for us and we will appreciate that. This education, this information, you are not going to get it from anywhere but through justice and law solicitors, because we will always bring you the undiluted legal advice. The best legal show in the diaspora It comes from lawyer David Darko of Justice and Law Solicitors. Justice and law will remain and can only be the solution to your legal problems. You can check us online, www.justiceandlawsolicitors.com. Any information that you need, check us right there and get in touch. Book appointment to come and see us for solutions to your legal problems. How does this happen? Circumstantial names. In this particular case, the person's father, since he came to the United Kingdom, became a chief or Odikru. And as we all know, once you become a chief, they will give you a stool name. So when I say circumstantial, because the person's circumstances has changed and that has given him a new name. So if, for example, the person is called Kwame Kechire Appiah, let's just say the father is called Kwame Kechire Appiah. As soon as he became a chief, the person has now become Nana Kwame Kechire Appiah Trimudeni. So now, if the person is doing any document and he is asked about his father's name, he is going to write Nana Kwame Kechire Appiah Trimudeni II. As soon as Home Office saw that, they said, hey, you are lying. The name that you gave when you were coming to the United Kingdom in 2005 is not the same name that you are providing us in 2012. For that reason, your application is refused. In this particular case, we had to do an appeal. We had to go to court. Or I think, yes, we had to go to court. Or just before the court, Home Office withdrew their decision and told the person, okay, fair enough, we will give you the visa, but you need to come to London Bridge to come and pick up your passport. Why, yo? And if you have been arrested by the Home Office before, brothers and sisters, believe in me, when they say come for your visa, you will say, you know what, they can keep it. Because, like they say, he who has been bitten by a snake is scared of the worm. They will walk out the down so. Now, and Penny say, "Akokono better." Or no, so they will agree. So the person said, me going there, forget it. Lawyer, unless you accompany me, I'm not going. I said, wow. I said, do no evil, fear no evil, Lawyer Darko. Nothing can break us down. Let's go. We done the fight. It's about collection. So me accompany this guy to London Bridge to pick up his passport and his visa. As unusual as it was, we were able to succeed for this brethren. You know, so all that I say is this. Circumstances can also change people's name. Sometimes someone's debility can also change their names. Now the doctorate degrees in Ghana is now doctor this, doctor that, with no qualification. People are calling themselves doctors. You know, and some people are doctors, they are bush doctors. Some people are book doctors. And some people are medical doctors. Some people are, you know, religious doctors. And some people are Dr. Banza. Yes, some people are Dr. Banza, Chikinane. So all that I say is, when someone says a doctor, you need to ask a follow-on question. What type of doctor are you? so that you can then work out and be sure of where you get yourself into. So that's what I say. Home Office have something called subject access request. If you are not so sure of an information that they hold on you, do the best that you can. Get in touch with Justice and Law Solicitors. We will do our investigatory work for you. Dig and find out exactly what it is before you proceed. It's best that you get your facts right before you take the risk, rush, and make an application. It's very, very important that you understand this. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because when Home Office are making any decision regarding any immigration application, this is what happens. They will look at paragraph 9.72 of the immigration rules, and it reads as follows. An application for entry clearance, permission to enter, or permission to stay must be refused where the decision maker can prove that it is more likely than not the applicant used deception in the application form. So now, if my father was called, for example, Kwame Kachiri, and now he has become a chief, his name has changed to Nana Kwame Kachiri Trimude the First. If I'm writing my father's name today, what do you think I'm going to write? I'm not going to write his previous name, which is Kwame Kachiri. I am going to write Nana Kwame Kachiri Trimude the First today, because today that's his name. Because his circumstances have changed from, Nana Kwame to maybe Kwame Kachiri to maybe now a chief. So Nana is the title. And Kwame Kachiri is his name. And then we have the stool name, Trimude the First. So it is important that when you are doing such applications, maybe, just maybe, you have to put both names. That my father is currently known as Nana Kwame Kachiri Trimude the First. But previously, he was named as Kwame Kachiri. So if this, show up in my previous application, he is one and the same person. You give it clarity so that no one can use it to make a mistake to refuse your application under 9.7.2. Very, very important. Pay attention to that. If you are not sure, you can always do subject access request and find out what has happened, and then you can then put in your application. If not, you'll be caught by paragraph 9.7.2. And when this happens, they could give you a mandatory ban of 10 years. So for me, it's very, very important that you learn to crawl before you stand, before you walk, before you run. Because if you don't do that, it's going to set you back 10 years. And everything is going to go down and mash up and crash up. I don't think you want that. It's very, very important that we learn and listen to the voice of legal reasoning. Very, very important. Okay, so now, what is happening with this Migration Advisory Committee? Let's look at what they are saying. The Migration Advice Committee, they have made recommendations for 21 occupations for the new immigration salary list following rapid review. The Migration Advisory Committee has completed a rapid review of the shortage occupational list that was commissioned in late January and has recommended 21 occupations to be included in the new immigration salary list. And it is aimed to increase the earnings threshold for skilled worker visas from 4th of April 2024 And basically, from early April, is going to remove the discount of 20%. So that means some of the skilled workers, the financial threshold is going to indirectly go up by 20%. Because the discount that was applicable for employers to be able to recruit people at a lower rate is going to be squashed. So now it's going to go up by 20%. And what are these? Managers and proprietors in forestry, fishing, and related services under Code 1212, Scotland only, fishing boat masters is going to increase by 20%. Or the discount, the 20% discount that was applicable to enable employers to recruit from outside at a lower rate is also going to go. Laboratory technicians under Code 3111. This is UK-wide. Pharmaceutical technicians under Code 3212. Boat and ship builders and repairers under Code 5235. Stone masons and related trades under 5312. Bricklayers under Code 5313. Roofers, roof tilers, and slaters under Code 5314. Construction and building trades under Code 5319. Animal care services occupations under Code 6129. Care workers and home carers under Code 6135. Senior care workers under Code 6136. This is the recommendation. The recommendations also include chemical scientists under 2111, biological scientists 2112, social and humanities scientists 2115, artists 3411, dancers and choreographers 3414, musicians 3415, art officers, producers and directors 3416, graphic and multimedia designers 2142, welding trades 5213, carpenters 5316. So basically, this is a recommendation from MAC, Migration Advisory Committee. We need to watch out and we need to catch out. Let's take a commercial break, and then when we come back, we continue with evicting tenants, knowing your rights. And then when to Sadaka, Committe the media to coin Adaka Yanko Yinti.
To
house is not like a box. If a house is like a box, I would have used mine to travel to wherever I go to. You know, somewhere to stay, somewhere to sleep is always a problem. Especially if you are a traveler, if you are a foreign, if you do not have enough money to buy your own accommodation or to build your own accommodation, it's always, housing issue is always a problem to majority of people. And UK is no exception. People sleep outside. You know, people don't have a house, a flat, somewhere to call home. And homelessness is a big issue, not only in the United Kingdom, but across the globe, especially in Western countries. You see, a lot of people in Africa thinks, and I beg to say, only mad people sleep outside. People with mental challenges sleep outside. But brothers and sisters, if you are watching me, believe in me, when it comes to Europe, when it comes to America, the so-called civilized nations, it's normal for sane people to be sleeping outside because of their circumstances. So homelessness does not only affect people with mental impairment. Homelessness, sometimes, if you live in Africa, your bread earner, your uncle, your brother, your sister, someone that you depend on, someone that brings you your monthly salary or your monthly fees, your monthly, income, your monthly chop money, is homeless in the diaspora, in Europe, in America, in Australia. The person is got nowhere to call home. The person is hustling. That is the reality. Don't be fooled by what you see on your television. The Western nations, everyone has got a car, everyone has got a house, they have a job, and they are living their life. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, some people living in Ghana are far better off than some of us here. Do not take it for granted. Where you have and you call home, at least you have a shelter over your head. Some of us here, we need a roof. We don't have a shelter. We just need a roof over our heads so that when the rain, it does not fall on us. People are struggling in the diaspora. People are hustling. Life is tough in the Babylon. According to, it's not for that back, and not mama back, the DBs or the MBs. According to, it's for hustlers. People who have, I would say, balls and guts to be able to withstand all these pressures. Because not only don't you have somewhere to stay or call home in Europe, you also have social pressure and family pressure back home. You're getting phone calls non-stop. Everyone is demanding. And as a result, believe in me, some of us in the diaspora, they have mental health issues. These are the things that people don't talk about. They are going through tough times because they themselves, they don't know what they are doing with their lives. They themselves, they are struggling. But yet, every phone call, every text message, any WhatsApp text, people are demanding. This is a person who doesn't have somewhere to stay, and you are demanding that the person should bring you money to go and pay your child's school fees. What about the child's father? What about the child's mother? Okay, let's say the mother doesn't have it, the father doesn't have it. What about the mother's brother or the father's brother? Why you? Ask yourself that question. The reality about life is this. When you don't have it, sometimes you have to be bold and say, I don't have it. Rather than trying and killing yourself and doing something that you know you don't have the capability of doing. I've seen someone whose rent was up. due to pay his rent. As soon as he got a phone call, he used that money to send over to pay his sister's son's school fees. And then he went around asking people to borrow money to go and pay his rent. I asked the person, you know what? It's all well and good to help a family. Now, you are not paying your rent. Your landlord is not going to spare you. He's going to check you out. Now, you become homeless. If you become homeless, there is every chance that you will lose your job. Because either you're going to go to a workplace smelling not that good, or your life will change for the worse. Because homelessness, unfortunately, is linked to poverty and sometimes mental health issues. And therefore, you are putting yourself on the course of this kind of lifestyle, on the course of becoming homeless, on the course of becoming, unemployed. If you put yourself in that corner, how will you be able to help them back home? This is what I said to the person. And he was like, oh, maybe I'll get someone to borrow me money. What if no one borrows you money? What is going to happen then? Some people make certain decisions that personally make no sense. Because in order to help someone, you need to secure yourself first. You need to secure your interest first. Don't just sit there and say, well, I am obligated to. You are not obligated nothing to someone's child. It is not your obligation. It is the mother and the father that made the child, and it's their responsibility. You can go in and help, but don't go and put that around your neck. You do that, the stress in doing that can kill you. I was talking to one gentleman some few days ago. He is looking after 18 children in Ghana. 4 of them are his children. 14 of them are not his children. I said, wow. If you can do it, great. But be very careful about your mental health and your stress level. Do not take more than what you can chew. Period. You also have to think about self-care. You also have to think about yourself. So be very, very careful. Sometimes we try to do too much to impress. But brothers and sisters, when you are dead, it's your children that are going to suffer as a result. How many people will remember you? Believe in me, very few people remember you. Just after 2 weeks, you'll be gone and forgotten. Be very careful. But your children will always going to remember you. Remember that. So it's incumbent upon you and I to make sure that we don't take more than what we can chew. We all want to help. But if you cannot, do not feel guilty to say no. Because I see no reason that for you to take more than what you can chew. And in the end, you will end up damaging yourself. Once you are damaged, the very person that you're trying to help, believe me, will find another person to help. Will find a solution to their problem. So don't take more than what you can chew. Don't do more than what you can do. Do the best that you can at all times. But also self-care and also putting yourself first is very, very, very important. Your health is your wealth. Look after it and you have a happy life. Evicting tenants. In this country, if you are renting a place and the landlord wants to evict you, the landlord, of course, will give you a notice that I'm going to evict you. Of course, the landlord will give you an indication that they may want to evict you and get their property back. The method in which the landlord can evict you will depend on the type of tenancy that you have. But in short, all that I would say is this. If you are living in any property and the landlord wants to evict you, you need to understand that if you leave the property without a court order, the local authority, which is the council, they are under no obligation whatsoever to basically to house you, because you will be deemed to have made yourself intentionally homeless. Very, very important. You will be deemed to have made yourself intentionally homeless. So what that means is this: if you allow yourself to leave, or you leave without court order, the local authority will simply say no, they don't owe you a duty. And therefore, in order for the local authority to owe you a duty, of course, the local authority will have their own requirements. Without a court order, don't leave the property. If in fact your intention is to get a local authority accommodation. Very, very important. In order for the landlord to evict you, in most cases, they have to serve you something called Section 21 notice. Section 21 notice simply means you must leave the property. And the landlord must give you at least 2 months notice. And the notice must be a rent date notice. And when we say a rent date notice, what we mean is that he must give you at least 2 clear months notice. What does that mean? This is where you need to do the calculation properly. So if the rent date is at the end of each month, and the landlord is going to give you notice, the landlord have to give you the notice today and tell you to quit the property at the end of April. That is 2 clear months notice. Why is that the case? It is the case that if, say, you pay your rent on the 30th of each month, and I'm giving you the notice today, I cannot count the 2 months from today. I have to count it at the end of the rent date and give you 2 months from that. So that at the end of the rent date, you pay 30th, so it will be maybe 30th of March will be the end of the rent date. So from 30th of March, I need to give you a 2 clear months, and therefore April and then May, because you are in March. So I need to give you at least 2 clear months notice. So if I serve the notice today, it cannot become effective until the end of May. So if you look at it, I will be giving you nearly 3 months notice. In that case, Section 21 notice requirement has been fulfilled, and we will then be able to rely on to bring an action against the tenant and evict the tenant successfully. That is Section 21 notice. The procedure to choose will then depend on the terms of the agreement. We have something called the accelerated procedure and the standard procedure. So this will depend on the type of tenancy. However, if the Section 21 notice is served, normally they will give you 2 months to quit. If you don't quit, then what happens? The landlord cannot simply come and throw your stuff out. The landlord have to make an application to the court under the standard possession order route or the accelerated possession order route, depending the basis of the eviction. If it is unpaid rent, then you cannot basically, if it's about unpaid rent, you have to use the standard. If it's about other grounds, then you can use the accelerated procedure. So we need to bear that in mind. So also, in order for the landlord to evict you, the landlord will take the case to court and basically request to get a court order. Under normal circumstances, if the landlord is able to build grounds, a good grounds for evicting you, the landlord will be successful, no doubt about that, once the tenancy has come to an end. But make sure that it's not your fault that the landlord is bringing proceedings. Because if for any reason it's your fault, the council will say that you have made yourself intentionally homeless. They are under no obligation to assist you. So we need to be aware of that. So now let's go. So eviction or the possession order is granted to the landlord. The court will tell you that you must leave the property by 14 days or 28 days depending. If you don't quit, then what happens? If you don't quit, the landlord cannot come there and kick you out. The landlord will have to make an application for enforcement, and through the enforcement, the landlord can then apply for bailiff to come and throw your stuff out. Unfortunately, these days, that is the only point that the council will see that you are homeless, and the council will then give you a temporary accommodation, and then at some point, if you are eligible, offer you a place to stay. So this is how the process works. This is how people must understand. If you make yourself intentionally homeless by not paying your rent, that is your own palaver. They will not bother. What if you reside with the landlord? In that case, can they also have to take you to court and so on and so forth? If you live with the landlord and basically, you know, of the landlord, you are not in full possession of the property, and you live with the landlord, in that case, the landlord can simply serve you with notice to quit, and they therefore give you about 14 days to sling your hook. And if you don't leave, once again, the landlord can also take you to court and get warrant of eviction or possession and basically get you out. You know, that's also another way of dealing with it. If you're a landlord and you don't go through the court process and you try to use physical force, remember, you could be committing an offense. Protection from Eviction Act, harassment, property damage, and so on and so forth. Be careful if you are a landlord. It's now exactly 12:30. We will activate the telephone lines for 15 minutes. Today, 1:45, we will bring the program to an end due to an emergency meeting that I have. I thank you very much for tuning in. I also thank you very much for sharing the program. Now we are going to activate the telephone lines, 15 minutes to take phone calls. If you have any question, anything at all, please, you have to be quick. And when you are asking your questions, you have to be fast for us so that we can also basically take other phone calls and deal with questions that people may also have so that we can finish the program on time and go and do other business. So we thank you very much once again. That was fast. Okay, so today we're just going to be fast and take all the phone calls. If you look on the screen, the comment section, we have put the telephone number to call. Sometimes people say I speak too fast. I try to go as slow as I can, but sometimes we all get a bit carried away, and we, you know, speak as fast as we can in order to be able to cover as much as we can. We thank you very much for joining us once again. Merci beaucoup. We got our first caller. Let's take the caller and let's take the call and see what she got for us.
Hello, good morning, Lawyer.
Hello, good morning to you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Nana.
Nana, what can you do for you, Nana?
From Brixton.
Nana from Brixton, from Camberwell to Brixton. Yes, uncle.
Me disabled, but I'm pretending to call Ghana. But I'm pretending to say if you okay, someone comes from 1st of May, I'm about by 28th of May, and
okay. What the rule says is that you must not be absent from the United Kingdom for more than 28 days. And 1st of May to 28th of May, if you calculate it properly, Krana, 26 days. Because 1st of May, I would to a few krumua, and therefore 1st of May now, and at 28th of May, a day I'll be arrival. And therefore on the 28th of May now, and it's a few days I know we
May 2 from Ghana, May 220, May 2 ending of May, now I do 1st of June. But you will be right there.
And it's more than 28 days from what you are saying now. because May 31 days, if I'm not mistaken. It's May 31 days.
But May 2 from Ghana 31 days, you know, but May 2 I think 1st of June.
Okay, now let's do the calculation. Also be free at 1st of May, me boy. 1st of May to 30th of May, Krana, 28 days. And it's over 1st of June. Yeah, that means that you are staying away more than 28 days. You are staying away for about 30 to 31 days. And therefore, no, it can be problematic if Omuhudia.
Okay. All right. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Yes, also get me fresh wood here. Number near 07538 969589. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. Number 2 one I say. Karen.
Yes.
Yeah, Karen did it here, your mom.
Now I'm patrol. Besides, Madam Fubi. Or Nikuno a student. Or Mapana. Unfortunately, you make crew had no Yaman Kuye Papana Jano. Now, or ye to my parents, no, besides say. In such a a dear no bay.
Nikuno. Depend one a dependent, you know, or one a dependent.
Or Baba dependent, you know.
So one a dependent, and so yeah, Jumana says 7 skilled work visa abbey. With me in your sponsorship, but me as switch, you know, no dinner also. Why? And tell me, say, I want to be realistic. Miss Meda, I say thank you. Hello. Hello?
No, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon to you. Now, Pacho, I can say free.
Alex Wolverhampton.
Mayor, young Quay.
You're already, I mean, that was so nice. The education, what they have brain. I've been shocked. I mean, the Bissau, previous, I mean, the Bissau question regarding what this US CDB, but you'll be changing. Well, a student, I'm a say, we are prevented because someone passing law be against that. But I'm just had many Busa about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. The Busa now have one and say, and call for no now. I have one and so say, and only your school video, but you know, I September intake. Here is the case, almost on prayer now, more. I'm in prayer now. It's also no person or no holding a license. What track of verification for say and conform someone near Juma Mammy. May say the abdomen lecture on the next month 15th. I said, he's almost queen. On the school of free school, no school, no intake in here. They say they're not a cruise, not a April, Nedia, and Tabadia, and could not April intake, you know. This is September, almost I am on 15th. Which you know what I say. Only apply no. Don't much claim for September no normal. Every document in the market process. By then, no them to win no swatch. I don't know. Na me say ni me fresh na.
I mean, they have two options. Either some pay another sponsorship and some be coffee. Now, on my defer course. Not time this one. Almost say application to come in as a student. Because how much now on visa the bill. And now, Okrumano, and I say, who breach immigration rules in a what's do be a piano, a baby problem. And they say they use a mere fast, some sponsorship, no more switch it fast. It be a little bit in a as it is. And yes, I said, by chance, be that's when we will when you acquire British and that's when you accredit indefinite. Or betting me, I switch it through the child. But as it stands now, the day. It doesn't look good. I agree.
Yeah, so I met that information about mom. They tell that it's a common pure money, and yes, you say, who make you aside. I've got almost a few in the Assembly about the room. You know, me am send you a link in this room.
I say
or reselling, so I say, obese of a switchable, but in a quack way, because you could not say in a quantia.
That's right.
In Ghana for the crowd, who crash in a lot of phone.
Sound.
Oh, this is a Ghana for TOSC, who say a lot of phone. When Sarah can be here, also that the management issue. Miss Mian, also that the management will be balanced. When you man who should be so I can't even sleep. We had a meeting with this man, or something. No, because the question about and send me dreamy panel. You need to connect. I'm doing the family member or papa is only in answer. So we pass. Your coffee here. As you know, much this can do a when you have program to offer. Maybe I'm only putting your Juma or Betum, the Okakana was saying, who the cock could cheer after the if you do as a demand saying, no, I found square one now. It's a Bacachum so much. Them so much in them answer. Among the woman, it is yet chibia. The medals in our message will be so other last lawyer.
Okay, thank you very much. I say more. Okay, okay. But you just my wine they were friend. Obia send a text 90 answer money panel. Or say please, if a divorce is granted in April, is it possible to get married in the same month? There is nothing preventing you from getting a divorce today and getting married tomorrow. As long as you have divorced and you have a divorce certificate, at any time you can go on and marry. Hello, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Pacho. Also, good afternoon. Maybe I'm Pacho. One like I say.
Don't be bad. Lawyer Christy speaking.
Oh, 7 of them who if you no BT no anymore. Because I sent to cry the Atusi. You can say you're your Ghana. British accent, you know.
Okay, Lawyer Pacho, no 2 questions.
Okay.
The one question is say, the person is too anomaly. Now, I don't want to make a mistake. I just want to make sure I am in the right way. So, I have decided 3 options. 1, either I should book an appointment to come and see you in the office, or I should send you the email to explain what I'm about to do, or you have your own way to call me. That's my option number 1. I don't know how you can help me, because I remember anytime I said I'm coming to the office, you said the place is very far.
Yeah.
I'll call you. So that's why I'm saying all these things, because I need your opinion in this thing before I make a move or make an expense.
Yeah. I would say send the email. Email is better.
So I should send you an email to explain, okay.
Yeah, it's better. The phone, no, and you may pass on another day. Say, see a crime show and conform free. Anybody in passing the live show and so very free. And see, Anna, a do Biana who may take a crack.
Okay.
I must say, one that's all. You see, I'm going to say, Makachi will be said between 11 and 1 may available. Phone call is coming from Somalia. Time also available. That time, many different friend. Went to the Anfa, was my friend Wawanfa.
Yeah.
You have your idea.
I know.
And you have a sure.
My second question is, sir, will be a rather cool hair. I send you to a man said, but you are by. So I'm past a dama is dependent. Obetini ashoshi abra money yawe yebetini a guarantee amana.
Dependents can always switch. They don't need basically say a switch now terms they use in any care of work. Switching they say main applicant, you know, switching from one employer to the other. Any friend is switching, but dependent, you know, so no senior sponsorship will be on one customer to apply on their own for enough to be independent, basically. And that's how it works.
Okay. That's what I say. So, Ban could hear no baby. Now, yes, or no independent person who can issue call my on what or you land here by herself.
Yes, I know your freedom. Or no one can be dinner also, or be independent.
Okay.
It will not be an applicant in the job now. When in that case, she doesn't need the husband now, I said the wife now, or the main applicant from the beginning.
That's what I say. Even she doesn't even approach the husband, she can do it by herself.
That's right.
Okay.
Do you need sponsorship? To say, even if I say, we main applicant, Anna Minoa Bekrumwa. Ye buy, Miss Mapako ye K work, baby. I know about offer me sponsorship. I don't need you anymore. I can just get the sponsorship and move on with it. But just what you are saying.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Okay. My friend. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, 1 hour friend was susubiting your friend. MC a time like 2 minutes pet near the Judeana air ban and a slim kind of meetings after meetings after meetings. And Tiana, you're going to talk, not just yet in your name. Mommy goose in a sorry, Mentia. Tia fire last caller near the Judeana. Hello. Hello, Patroni said I can say free. South Wales, young quay, the uncle.
Yeah, but I got a quick question. Now, if you are open, and now we are open NI. If you open NI, I'm appointment day. One year, or NI letter. And I begin to free move. And I was sound call the Chromo. And yes, you might be look per se. What's out about me desire than I put over happy what I'm used to my hand. I say, any possible because on you now.
The problem that you have, they say, it's not a matter say what I had before. It's a year free. Name a matter say, Ubetine Krumwa, and say a year free. A 2 year application now. Omepusa say omope evidence of your residency. Bibia nature say we tikrumu and it is a winner of one-off letters, Hannah. It may not be enough to convince them. So, and it can bring question mark. So I think you need more than that. Because one piece of evidence, they will say is an isolated evidence. How did you survive? You were not working. If you were not working, how did you survive? Did you have your own capital that you were living on, your own money that you were living on? If that is the case, where did you keep that money? Until there can be question marks being raised. But for me, there is nothing wrong in trying. Because rules, last August, almost tighten rules. But this January, and Confession says some more complaining. And Thomas are relaxing rules like a and with that letter now, with a bit of luck, you may be able to get away with it.
But you know, letter to which I could compare NI.
So for NI, questions which you may not be able to answer because you will say, Dabena will be a crew one. So, what can I feel about saying a free you are not entitled to?
Entitled, yeah.
That's where the problem comes in.
Complicated.
Complicated, Kakra, I know what they, but like I said, yes, it is still be fee, you'll be fee. Sometimes, no harm in trying. And then see what happens. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't.
No harm in trying.
Yeah.
And if you are not just a lot of one.
Sanet here.
My
name right down. Why? My name right down. Who say I said you take a course on and to buy this can why the £50 nose. You're petting in the 20s. That's right. That's it. Thank you for calling. Bye-bye. Yes, your time no so now we say man for be good to be brave. So person fra we will make this room for you. I need to, pick up a phone call from Somalia. Omo ha ma geno phone so pa. Enti ese me from sisi ana meet me sort 1 or 2 be ma woman na me is a problem me free one more. Enti so person fra one last chance. We have only 3 minutes. Ubetimi afre. Yen take phone calls no na fe you answer question that you may have. Now if you hello.
Yeah, hello there. Good morning.
Hello, good morning to you. Nampachawa like I say. Kojo Osei Yanko.
Documents about the officer.
I'm so confirm about when Saka. I need to group them. Once I group it now, I will get in touch and I say I saw to be outline. Your court cases be another deadline. To this week now my swine ship. And to that me concentrating. Me concentrating and me claim free order more. Ti akaba akokra say this weekend end deadline your Monday. Me launching a Monday. Me claim free na ma give me clear kakra. And ti sana kwa kwa. Tu bete menka no shaking. Why? That's it. Right here for anybody lawyer David Black and Amote Justice and Law Solicitors. Through operation of the law, we can bring you legal justice. So person we your unit 35B 49 Efra Road, Brixton, London, SW21BZ. Our telephone number is 0207 993 5976, or you can call us on 07538 9695889. Our office hours is from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Please, if you want to call us within this time. If you call us 8 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, there will be no one to answer the phone call. So please, we beg you, if you're going to call within the reasonable time office hours. There is always someone on standby to take your phone calls and help you as much as they can. Justice and law, we are the solution to your legal problems. We thank you once again. We thank you for joining us. Next week, we will bring you more legal matters. According to your bread, Nebum Kana Yenka. Limba Brothers, let's go.
bueno, no me ni guama se. Ni agua fuente, y agua fuente. I could be my zio, when you for your bro. Oye, my dear, so we are the one. Simple to me, or come on forward you. So dear, one up by me, we both run to me one. Jimmy Bay, sharing me on the mind, you. Oh, well, oh, yeah, talking, a year, the many days, oh, yeah, talking to you. Take a seat, oh, yeah, talking, sweat from me, oh, yeah, talking to you. Oh, yeah.